Oliver Gets the Bird. Oliver is a Great Western engine. He was found by Douglas escaping from scrap with his brake van towed. With the help of his driver and fireman, Douglas brought Oliver and tow to the safety of the Fat Controller's railway. Here, they were cleaned and Oliver was painted in splendid Great Western green. All the engines on the Fat Controller's railway were glad of the extra help Oliver could offer. One day, while Oliver was waiting at the station which the other engines shared with the small railway, he noticed a metal cage hanging outside the station master's house. Inside the cage fluttered a brightly colored creature. "It's blue and green," he told Duck in the shed that night, "and it's got a yellow pointed nose with a sort of funnel thing on top of its head. My driver said that it talks," he added doubtfully. "Talks?" scoffed Duck. "Why doesn't it ask to come out of its cage then?" Duck's driver overheard them. "It's a parrot," he laughed. "Your driver was quite right, Oliver. Some parrots can talk, and this is one of them. It belongs to the station master's father. The old man was a sailor who brought the parrot back from foreign lands. The parrot's name was Khaki. He was only put outside on fine days, of course, but he quickly became a favorite with the railway staff. He didn't seem to mind the sudden noises that the engines made either." Both Duck and Oliver listened carefully whenever they could, but they never heard him speak. "I don't believe it," Duck said to Oliver one night. Oliver had just been teasing him about Dilly, Donald's duck. This made him cross. "All he does is shrieks and flock about. Lily doesn't talk, but at least she's friendly." He didn't like being reminded of the time when Donald's driving fireman had once put a duck egg underneath Duck's bunker. Birds are just meant trouble as far as Duck was concerned. A few days later, Oliver was waiting for the last train from the small railway. It was late and Oliver was becoming impatient. When it did arrive at last, the passengers quickly got into Oliver's coaches. Oliver waited for the guard to blow his whistle and wave his green flag. Soon, the whistle sounded, but the platform was empty except for Khaki fluttering in his cage. "The guard must be in his van already," the driver said. "Away we go, Oliver. Let's see if we can make up some of the lost time." They had a good run, but when they reached the big station, the guard came out to Oliver. He looked cross. "Whatever you were up to rushing off like that, Oliver," he demanded. "Next time wait for my whistle before you start, please. You might have caused an accident." Oliver looked puzzled. "I'm sorry, guard," he said, "but there was a whistle." "That's right," agreed his driver. "We all heard." Now the guard was puzzled too. "But I was in my van when you started," he said. "I was stacking some boxes and you made them fall over when you dash off like that." Suddenly a grin spread across the fireman's face. "Is that Khaki?" he exclaimed. He must have learned how to intimidate the guard's whistle. They soon found out he was right. "Well, well, well," chuckled Duck knowingly when he heard about the confusion. "Fancy getting fooled by a bird, eh, Oliver? With my egg and your parrot, I think that make us quits, don't you?"
Funnel trouble. Oliver didn't feel well. "I'm all stuffed up in my funnel," he complained. "I can't breathe properly." "Well, I gave your smug box a good clean yesterday," said his fireman. "I'll have a go at your tubes this evening. That might help." "You sound just like me when I've got a cold," laughed his driver. "But at least you don't keep having to blow your nose like I do." The fireman cleaned Oliver's tubes, but it made no difference. He brought an inspector to see Oliver, but the inspector couldn't find nothing wrong either. While Oliver was ill, Duck had to see to Oliver's ballast wagons. This annoyed him, because it often made him short of time before his first passenger train of the day. One day, when the trucks were being more troublesome than usual, Duck bumped them. He hadn't meant to, but the buffers jammed, and instead of bouncing like it should have done, it gave Duck a nasty jolt. He noticed no real effects at the time, but soon after he started his passenger train, he began to feel cold and wet above his left-hand wheels. "That's funny," he remarked to his fireman a few minutes later. "I'm sure we filled right up with water before we started. We can't have used that much already. Can you check the gauge, please?" But the water level continued to drop, and Duck's driver stopped the train and got out to take a look. He was surprised to find a steady drip of water on the corner of Duck's tanks. "You must have loosened a plate when you bumped those trucks," the driver groaned. "What shall we do now?" asked Duck anxiously. "The next station's not far. We'll get the passengers there, and a bus can take them to Tidmouth instead of us." Duck made his way to the middle station, and Bertie collected the passengers, while Duck's fireman sent for Oliver to help Duck home. Oliver thought it was a great joke. "Ho ho ho ho!" he chuckled to himself. He was still chortling when he was coupled to Duck, and they began their journey home. It was hard work, and Oliver was feeling the strain. "Steady, Oliver," said his driver. "Don't go putting yourself out of action, too." Oliver heaved and hauled as hard as he could. Then he felt a sharp pain through his funnel, and suddenly something shot out high into the air. No one saw it land, but Oliver didn't care. He felt well again, and was able to bring Duck and the coaches home again in fine style. "You must have had something jammed across your funnel," said the driver. "The extra effort of pulling Duck unjammed it and blew it out." "Yes, indeed," puffed Oliver cheerfully. "I feel ready for anything." "Good," laughed his driver. "Your train is due. You'll have no trouble with that now." And he didn't.